mean, on the one hand, of course, this very setup is about that question. How do we connect? How do we make space? How do we interact with each other?
If we imagine we're all listeners embracing the unknown, that is also a word coming from Sun Ra, I think. How would that look like, or feel like, or be like?
Yeah, it's right. I'm very much inspired by Sun Ra when I use that word, unknown, but it's beyond actually just one individual. And Sun Ra is also beyond one individual, because I had the luck to work with the band, the Sun Ra Orchestra, and it is very clear that it is about how we make space, for each other and to live in. And that kind of question is the engagement of the unknown for me. Now, with that, I'm also trying to speak about how genres, like, okay, this is a classical music space, this is a jazz music space. Whenever I go to one of these spaces, everybody always says, you're from this other space or this other space. So for me, it's exactly this question that I present to them. Why is this space delimited like that? Does it actually benefit us? Or are we already entering another time, another way of thinking about how we may live together, how we may live with our environment, and what life even should mean? So I guess that's the answer for me to how we should listen to music.
I don't want to become a kind of spectacle, or to like be in the space as something you watch and enjoy, but like, where is it going? I'm really also trying to provide teachings, to learn as well from the spaces I enter.
You also work in an archive. In this archive also collect indigenous instruments, and you brought some of them here.
Mbira, and there are about 5 different types of this instrument. And so this instrument is one of those things that was being used in the past for healing, and I think it's a really beautiful instrument. So yeah, it's built of metal, put against this wooden box, which resonates.
Really pretty.
It's usually played in an ensemble, so like about 10, 11 people all playing this instrument, dancing around, and it's like collective. This instrument, which is a kind of bow, we have many bows in South Africa, so West Africa has more drums. I'd say Southern Africa, we have more bows and different singing styles. So this is from Malawi and also from Zimbabwe, and we also play in South Africa. And there's another one that's built off a feather that kind of looks like this. You blow into it and it produces sounds. We use this to call on maybe the frogs or birds, and the idea is that nature and the environment that you live in is rich when you can exist with other biomes like wildlife. And so if you aren't hearing frogs in the water source, then it's probably not a healthy environment to be in. And so when you are a sound healer, you basically want to be listening to the nature around you and connecting with it. So you play these instruments like outdoors in the forest to connect. And I'm sure you can hear, like, there's only 2 tones, which means you have limited possibilities, perhaps, if you're writing. But I also, in another world and in my world, I don't think it's limiting to only have 2 notes produced. I think, if anything, that's where you expand and explore and you listen. Because you're not looking out for the next place, and you're listening, and you're entering a kind of trance with the same sound moving. So yeah, I'm interested in what that does to the mind. I'm also interested in how, with all of these instruments, really, like how we can recreate a synergy of the 2 worlds. I don't think we need to go all the way back to past versions of ourselves, but I do think we can learn from erased pasts and erased history and redefine where we're trying to go as a people. This instrument is one of those interconnecting instruments. I was gifted this from a Vietnamese healer because it sounded exactly the same as what I was playing at the time. So in South Africa, we call it istolotolo, but this is called a Vietnamese mouth harp. Sounds exactly the same, but looks completely different. I'm sure you can imagine, if you're listening to this for an hour, like, the impact. I don't even have to say anything. Yes, we do have about 650 instruments that we know of in South Africa, which also extends to the Southern African region, really. Archiving in itself is a problematic concept. I think for a very long time we were collecting things, stories, and safekeeping it for other cultures to marvel at, look at, or sometimes not even engage with. Sometimes this material is just locked away in a basement somewhere. And so I really had a problem with archiving as the solution to keeping history alive. So I was really curious about what it means to redefine curating heritage, history, reimagine the spaces we call learning spaces, the spaces we call protective, culturally protective spaces. And the language I speak is one of composition and music, and so that's the only way that I can extend this. Still in the testing out phase, but ideally I'm just trying to build a wide array of virtual instruments and electronic responses to these sounds. On the point of it being endangered, it is endangered. Most times under 100 people play 600 instruments. So it's a dying out concept, but there's a revival, and in the revival I would like to see how to work with modern technologies, modern systems, feed information into patches, AI, we all know the different terms, but like feeding the indigenous erased history back into it and seeing what that does then. And yeah, just trying to interrogate those concepts through the ways I compose, through the ways I interact with art. But yeah, I'd say that's also like a portion, and I wouldn't want to say all of what I'm doing at Duke is around that. I'm also trying to see what orchestrating for indigenous instruments looks like, orchestrating for the unknown indigenous instruments as well, because I think in the percussion section, we do cover a lot of world music and world instruments, and most times you'll find percussionists do have a wide range of tastes and textures. However, if we think again of the canon of orchestration and coming together in a space to have an ensemble, I'm curious about what writing for only indigenous instruments is like, only indigenous instruments from all over the world as well, not just stripping it down to what I know. So I hope all of that is possible. If not, we just keep dreaming. Yeah.